Welcome to the Cinefanatics. My name is Robert Adams.
I'm Chris Adams.
And we are here today from the tagline doing our review for Rebel Moon. This is going to be a spoiler-free review, so if you're worried about any kind of spoilers for that, don't worry. We're taking care of that for you. That being said, I also want to precursor this because Zack Snyder is a very popular name amongst the internet right now. For the past, I don't know, like 5, 6, 7 years or so. He's been a big name of controversy on the internet. So I do want to say our point of view for this movie is going to be based specifically off of this movie. We are not doing this based off of any kind of preconceived notions of Zack Snyder and his auteur work. That being said, we are generally fans of Zack Snyder. We're going to review this and his movie as if it was any other director directing a movie. So no bias in any direction because of Zack Snyder. I do like his previous movies his Dawn of the Dead remake was really good. And I love Watchmen, even though I know like a lot of people are kind of split on that. Haven't seen 300 or Sucker Punch yet, but I do plan on seeing 300 pretty soon.
I, for one, actually do enjoy Man of Steel. I think Man of Steel was a pretty decent first outing for Superman in that specific DC universe. So as far as that's concerned, Zack Snyder is capable of obviously delivering a good movie. But yeah, let's get into the actual Rebel Moon discussion of it all.
So this was a movie that Zack Snyder had pitched to Lucasfilm years ago, probably I think it was almost 10 years ago. He was trying to pitch this as another direction to go to step away from the Skywalker saga, that this was going to be a standalone movie. Roughly I would assume it would have to do with the rebels being built up or whatever, kind of probably of almost the same kind of feeling as Rogue One is what I would compare it to. Mm-hmm. That being said, Lucasfilm did not pick it up. And so Zack Snyder decided that he wanted to still make this movie, so he made it its own original sci-fi movie with no connections to anything else, even though you can blatantly see that there's influence and connections to almost any sci-fi movie that was ever made. So,
yeah, that's the biggest thing. First of all, is the movie is the definition of derivative. A lot of people will look to Avatar and say that the first Avatar movie is derivative of various stories like Ferngully, Pocahontas, Dances with Wolves, all that kind of stuff. But I would argue that this movie is even more derivative of various sci-fi adventures that have come before it. Some folks were saying that out of the theater, they were saying that they could see the connection to Star Wars. They could see how it was connected to Star Wars. And I'm saying the movie blatantly grabbed you by the throat and slammed Star Wars into your face over and over and over again. It was very much apparent that Zack Snyder was trying to do Star Wars in this movie. And in my opinion, not well. Not well at all. I think the movie... my opinion is that people should stop trying to do Star Wars and let Star Wars be Star Wars, and you do your own thing. Try to do something different. Because this movie was trying way too hard to be an expansive universe like Star Wars is, or like other science fiction projects might be. And it's not hitting that level of success that those franchises have attained. It is very much a movie that's trying way too hard to be something that I don't think that they put enough real thought and time and effort into actually making.
Yeah, so I would say my issue with this movie is the overall story, I feel like was just very convoluted. And that wouldn't make sense. It is hard to do a sci-fi movie where you need your audience to immediately accept this entire fantasy world that you've created. And you're trying to set the rules and the boundaries of this world and also get your audience to climb on board with that. And I don't think that Rebel Moon does a good job with that. For example, after we left the theater, the two of us were sitting there name any of the characters in the movie. Now, granted, while we may have been saying that as a joke, I actually could name like two characters. One, I guess I kind of knew Sophia Botella's character before going into the movie, and was it Jamon Hunsu? His character, they say his name like 50 billion times in that movie,
and his is the only name that I could remember myself.
Yeah. So it's not possible to not remember his name. You'll know his name.
It's also a very simple name compared to literally everybody else's who has like a super sci-fi sounding name.
Yeah, wasn't he like General Titus or something?
General Titus. It's just General Titus.
Yeah, so super easy to remember. I don't remember anyone else's name.
Yeah.
I just remember the face and who they are in regards to everyone else. But yeah, this movie was a lot of exposition because, again, you're setting up a new fictional world, but it wasn't set up in such a way that I feel like it could easily be dived into. Like the beginning of the movie, I feel like I was on board. I was able to keep track of what was going on. But then after it leaves like this main planet that we start off with, stuff just gets like thrown like all over the place. And this movie is supposed to be very similar to like Seven Samurai or Magnificent Seven, where we have someone that's basically going around and recruiting people to join their goal.
Is a great idea. I want to see the movie where that idea is fleshed out properly. It was not done properly in this movie.
And like even there's parts of like even Star Wars that I feel are very reminiscent of that. I mean, you look back at A New Hope, you've got this whole ordeal. Luke and Obi-Wan now have to go. They recruit Han and Chewie, and they go rescue Leia. Mm-hmm. They got C-3PO, R2-D2. They're forming their little group, and then they go and join the rebels proper. That's not what this is doing. This is basically like creating the rebels to begin with, almost kind of similar to what they were establishing in Rogue One. So,
it's essentially what is happening is, all right, well, we've got to go from here. All right, we got to go to this next world over here because there's this person who is known for this thing there. And they show up and that person has like some kind of brief action sequence introduction of some sort. And they go, cool, you're on the team. And we don't really dive into who that person is and why we're supposed to believe that what you said about them makes them important. It's very much a show up, someone's there's, oh, cool, woman has these fiery laser swords. She dispatches somebody right there, and then she's on the team. I still don't know anything about her or why she's important. I'm sure the movie tells us, but it does it in such what feels like a very convoluted way that its intentions are not clear throughout the entire thing. And I think that's really where this movie lets me down a lot, is in those moments where I want to spend more time getting to know who these characters are. But at the same time, your movie's already running about 2.5 hours long. And it's going that long without us actually being able to really dive into each individual character. Now, keep in mind, this is supposed to be a part one. So this is supposed to be the introduction basically to all these characters. And then in part two is when we get into the thick of what's actually happening story-wise. It's just that we're getting too many names and not enough really caring about who these individuals are to those names. Like Jamon Hunsu, completely underutilized in this entire movie. He shows up and has like what feels like 5 scenes maybe at most, and a lot of them are just talking. They're not really doing much. So
that was the other thing, is action was kind of lackluster in this. They spend a lot of time building up exactly what's going on, the world around them, and not so much like it kind of feels like there's like an action scene like roughly in the middle of the movie, and I feel like it was super forced. Like it didn't need to necessarily be there, but they're like, man, we've been talking for like an hour straight. We need someone to shoot something. Like that I feel was very like ham-fisted into the movie. Like most of my issue is going to be just how much exposition, how much storytelling, and lack of character development. Now, given that, and this is something like on this channel I've said a lot of times, I have really bad ADHD. I need to be told and shown who these characters are. I need to be able to care about these characters and follow them on this journey for the entire story to be ultimately worth it. and I don't feel that. So like, I know there's a lot of people that like this movie's right up their alley, whether they're a Zack Snyder fan or not. A lot of people I've seen like this movie and the story it told. Maybe that they're able to better grasp this giant world building sci-fi movie than I am. But for me, yeah, this just kind of missed the mark like everywhere. I feel like the idea of being able to go and recruit people would have been much better if it was like a TV show where it's each episode. We've got Sofia Boutella's character Cora is going and recruiting people, and kind of like Mandalorian, how Mandalorian spends each episode, he goes and visits someone, and then he has to help out that someone with some kind of trouble that they're in their local area. Once that's resolved, then Mandalorian's got their help, got their support, he's got whatever it was he wanted from that person, and then he moves on to the next episode and rinse and repeat.
Yeah, like an 8-episode series on Netflix, where we're diving into each individual character as a part of an episode, and then at the end is like the big climactic fight that you have, or whatever you have for the end of the movie. You have it as the last like maybe 2-part episode, and then it leads directly into season 2 or whatever you want to do. I think you have much better success with this because you would get to spend more time kind of emphasizing who each character is, why they're important, the world they came from, the experiences they've had. All of these things are necessary for each character, and the movie just did not give you enough time to dive into those things. If you get an episode of a TV show for each one, that would be absolutely perfect. And I would say that this franchise here that I believe Zack Snyder is trying to build would fare a lot better in that regard, and could easily be a new go-to thing to sign up for Netflix for, basically, rather than just a movie. You know, Netflix has Stranger Things, it has all these other, you know, big name tentpole shows. This could have shut up. This could have been one of those things that that you go to Netflix for if they built it up properly. But instead, for some reason, they decided to do it as a movie, and I don't think you have as much success that way. Overall, I would say like I want to bring out some positives here. I want to say the performances were good.
The style of the movie.
It's the style of the movie. It's the Zack Snyder style. So take it or leave it if you like that or not. I, for one, was not really enjoying it. And personally, this is going to sound really harsh, but I feel like the different shots in the movie that someone should say, well, that was a gorgeous shot. The cinematography on that was amazing. Just felt way overdone and try hard to me. There's a couple shots that you look at and you're like, wow, the framing of that shot, the way everything happens, it should be beautiful. But for me, I'm like, it just feels like you're trying way too hard to make something pretty rather than actually making something pretty.
And it looks like it definitely looks like, and I've been trying to read and see if I could find any kind of actual confirmation, but it looks like it was filmed on the volume, much like The Mandalorian. The thing is, like, The Mandalorian being filmed on the volume, it still looks good. This one definitely looked like, especially like there at the very beginning, like the very, very beginning, Cora is talking to, I don't know his name,
Exactly.
but like out in a cornfield or something. And you're looking at them standing there with the background, and it looks like they're standing in front of a backdrop. It looks like it's not actually there, and they're filming like on a giant green screen. So they may have filmed on a volume and just used like the lesser volume because it wasn't that overall impressive looking. There was a couple of like explosion shots that looked really good, but otherwise it is very heavy on the slow-mo, especially in the few action scenes there are, which is a Zack Snyder staple. And then, the lens flares. Like, for a second there, I was like, are we sure J.J. Abrams didn't direct it? No, J.J. Abrams has made good movies. So, yeah, like, the lens flares are kind of insane in this movie as well.
And then, yeah, of course, as we were talking about, like, the performances and everything as well, I feel like there's not a whole lot to go off of there. Everybody did what they could with the script that they were handed. And while I do believe that Sofia Boutella absolutely can lead a movie, I think, again, for what she was given here, she did a good enough job. I'd like to see more from her in a lead role somewhere down the line, but I don't think this movie is going to help her at all because
Yeah.
of the movie that it is.
That's what I say. Like, there's no big names in this. Sophia Boutella, Jamon Hansu. You got Anthony Hopkins as the narrator, and he also voices a droid that pops up like at the beginning and then disappears for the rest of the movie, and like pops up at the end. That's it.
And then you've got Charlie Hunnam.
Yeah, Charlie Hunnam. Yeah, from Sons of Anarchy. That's roughly about it for like big names. There's a couple other people, depending on if you've watched like TV shows. Michael Huisman from the Flight Attendant from HBO Max, and then you also had Fra Fee from what was it Hawkeye
Yeah.
as Echo's bodyguard assistant character.
And then of course you had Ray Fisher.
Ray Fisher, yeah, that was one thing. I am happy to see Ray Fisher in a movie again. Granted,
I just wish it was a better movie.
By Zack Snyder and not produced by Warner Brothers, so that would explain that. But
for his sake, I wish it was a better movie.
Yeah. So overall, I would say out of we rank this out of 10. I'm going to give this probably a 2. Like,
here's the thing. This might very well end up my least favorite movie of the entire year. I'm going to give it a nice, solid, hefty 1 out of 10. I did not enjoy it. From minute 15 on, I was done and counting the minutes for the movie to be over. Yeah. I hated it. I did not like it at all.
So that's going to be our review. Again, what did you think of it? Let us know down below in the comments. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Follow us on social media. We are at the Cinefanatics on Twitter and Instagram. Also, you can follow me at Robert Adams MLP on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, and youtube.com/RobertAdamsMLP.
And you can follow me at Chris Adams MLP on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd, as well as twitch.tv/Chris Adams MLP, where I'm sure a lot of Snyder fans are going to come show up and give me what for.
So that's going to do it for this review. Thank you for watching. We will see you on the next one. Y'all have a great evening, day, night, time, morning, whatever it is.
I need this movie to transfer into Moonfall, Rebel Moonfall.
Yeah.
Make it a better movie.
Yeah. Anyways.